Evan, the season is saved. My friend, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers reunite with outside linebacker and Super Bowl 55 champion Jason Pierre-Paul. Their pass rush is fixed. They are out of the slump, and we are well on our way to another Super Bowl title. We're going to break that down and preview Thursday Night Football on today's Cannon Fire podcast.
I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with the head. Intercepted. 30. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, Bucs fans, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire podcast. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me today, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Mr. Evan Wanish. And my friend, I know you've seen the news. The Bucs have solved all their problems, my friend. JPP to the rescue here. How how we doing?
It feels a lot like the, look, it's cool, right? Like, I'm going to get out of the way first, right? It's always neat, I guess, but, like, feels a lot like the Shaq Barrett thing last year, right? You know, Shaq Barrett comes out of retirement, and then he ends up re-signing with the Buccaneers. Yeah, I mean, look, is he going to come in and be Jason Pierre-Paul of 2020? Like, no, obviously, right? And obviously he's not playing Thursday. Like, he's not gonna suit up for him on Thursday night. So I think the plan would be, if he's gonna play at all, it's gonna be, his first action would be, that Carolina game next weekend. But yeah, it's, we'll dive into it a little bit. There's some takes that are more deeper than others. I think it's a lot simpler than I think some other people are making it out to be. I don't think it's like some deep conspiracy, this is this and that. Like, I think when it comes down to it, it's pretty simple, but it was a little bit surprising though. I mean, because it kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like, it was like, all right, they're working them out, and then they signed him to their practice squad. So it did come out of nowhere. But yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul is back with the Buccaneers. Just like, you got Jason Pierre-Paul coming back, you got Phillip Rivers coming back. I mean, you got everybody.
I talked to Rondé. I already asked him. He may or may not mull it over this week and see if the Bucs need any extra help down the stretch.
They might need him.
Maybe Simeon Rice. He was biting to play. I feel like within the last 5 years, there was a story floated out there about Simeon Rice harassing coaches at training camp because he wanted to play again. And at 51 years old, he looked like he was in good enough shape to play again at the Ring of Honor ceremony last weekend, or a couple of weekends ago now. So, Jason Pierre-Paul, let me take off the mask. If anybody couldn't see through the sarcasm there, no, I do not truthfully believe that a reunion with Jason Pierre-Paul is going to fix all the issues we've seen from this Bucs team over the last month and a half. But very much like you said, Evan, I'm a sucker for a good reunion, right? It's always cool to see a player who spent some time here ultimately come back. And I think JPP is among the select few who not only spent some productive years in Tampa, but captured a championship doing it. So, like, that's got to mean something in the locker room. But the narrative we want to tackle with JPP before we move on to the game preview here is really, it seems like this is a move that, like, the name is going to be surprising, and I'm sure it's going to be a warm welcome to a lot of people. But the reality of the situation is that he's 36 years old. He's going to be 37 on January 1st, and he has not played a down of football in the NFL since the 2023 season. Now, he did speak to the media at One Buck this week. He talked about working with a personal trainer, amping up for an NFL return. But at the end of the day, there's not that many 35-plus-year-old defensive linemen still wrecking shop in the NFL. Cam Hayward is a monster in Pittsburgh. I don't know how he's doing it, but he's, I think, 35 or 36. And he's arguably the best player on that defensive line whenever TJ Watt's not at 100%. And then on top of that, I mean, Calais Campbell's still going at it somewhere, but he's not as explosive. I'd like to see if JPP has some gas left in the tank, but I don't expect much here. He's a rotational guy. The Bucs need depth for a playoff push. With that being said, what we are going to address, and like we never really like to call anybody out by name, but I think James I think James did this to himself here, and he makes a lot of fair points because of where the Bucs are in their season, and because of everything we've talked about with Todd Bowles and this coaching staff and like player body language over the last couple of weeks. Sure, I think you could get something from here, but I don't think it involves JPP to the degree that it may. So I'm going to read this to you, but any thoughts before I lay this out there?
No, I mean, like you said, we don't really like call people out, but when it's James Hill, Mr. Bugs Nation, for anybody who doesn't know,
well,
it's okay.
There is a weird contract we have with James where all of his tweets are actually our property.
Yes.
So
yes.
we have
all of his content actually. All of his everything.
It's some weird workaround. We figured it out back in the old days of YouTube, and I'm glad that it has stood the test of time.
So, he's in chat.
Is he in the chat really?
$2 super chat.
Get out of here. Oh, man. What better timing from the man himself. Thank you to everybody hanging out with us. All right, so James jumped on the Twitter machine this week, and he wrote a novel for Bucs Nation, and he says, so the Bucs sign a 36, about to be 37-year-old JPP who has not been on a football team in 2 calendar years. Is the communication, play, and leadership so bad on this defense that they needed to make this type of move? Is the coaching staff's message not getting through to the players so severely that they needed to do this to get an extra voice in the building? This staff and the front office have failed to create new stars in the pass rush of the defensive side of the ball, and again, they are resorting to ghosts of the past. Remember Shaq Barrett from last season. This really does feel like a desperate, grasping at straws type of move that if you really wanted to do, should have been done earlier in the year. Again, this team is doomsday reactive instead of proactive. I'm going to tell you this, man. I agree with a little bit more than I disagree with in that entire statement. But the Jason Pierre-Paul stuff, like I think, again, a lot of what James frames up there makes sense, but I think when it comes to like JPP being looked at as a guy to come in here and fix the locker room and light some fire up under some guys' butts, I think that just might be fans wanting something when it may or may not actually be there. Like, I think the vibes are off in the locker room, but I don't think they brought in Jason Pierre-Paul expecting him to be the answer in that sense. Like, they just need some serviceable depth. He's a guy who's played here, won here before, and he can step into this defense seemingly no problem.
And, the thing is, like, whether Jason Pierre-Paul or somebody else, like, who are you signing at this point in the season that's going to really make a difference anyway? Like, it's very minuscule, like, the difference between Jason Pierre-Paul and somebody else who maybe did play last year or did play this year a little bit. Like, I get it. James does bring up, good points. And, like, there is a point, like, okay, you mean to tell me, like, I don't know, JPP wasn't ready to go like a month ago? Like, you couldn't have done this a little bit earlier, so maybe he could. If there is anything left, maybe he could help you. So like I understand that point. And of course, like the vibes are off in the locker room. They lost 3 of 4. They were 5-1. Now they're 7-6. When you're losing, the vibes are going to be off no matter what. And I don't think like the Bucs locker room is toxic or whatever. And I don't, I don't want to put words in James's mouth. I don't think James is saying that. I don't think he's saying like,
right,
oh, it's a horrible locker room. Everybody hates each other and this and that. But I do think that, again, there's some truth to what he said, but also, like you said, I think sometimes it's just as simple as like, they wanted some depth. He's a veteran guy. They obviously know him. I guess they didn't want to go down the Shaq Barrett road again.
Right.
Maybe Shaq wasn't interested this time around. Who knows? And, they signed him to the practice squad. Like, will he play? Like, he'll probably play a little bit, but, like, I don't know. It's not like we saw Shaq Barrett out there 24/7 last year when he signed back, So we'll see. Obviously, not expecting much. I don't think that's fair to Jason Pierre-Paul to expect very much from him at this stage. But I don't necessarily think it's like some deeper meaning thing. Now, that being said, The one thing I do think that is a positive is I do think his mentality, and I'm not gonna say this, obviously I don't know him personally, right? But does have a little bit of an edge, right? There is a little bit of an edge to him. There was an edge to a guy like a Ryan Jensen, right? There was an edge to Ndamukong Suh. I think the Bucs are sort of lacking those types of guys on offense and defense. They are kind of lacking those guys. I think they're kind of and again, don't know these guys personally, just like on the football field, like mindset wise, like I think they're kind of lacking some like douchebags. Like they're kind of lacking some guys that are like, yeah, I don't care like about anything. Like let's get this done. Like no distractions. Let's lock in. Like I don't care about any of this other stuff. And I'm not saying this Bucks team is soft or whatever, but I do think they're missing that a little bit right now. Like, and again, I'm not saying you have to get some guy who is. There's a difference, right, between a guy who is a douchebag on the football field and a douchebag in real life. You try to avoid those, of course. We've seen the Buccaneers sign those types of guys, and it hasn't worked out. But I do think you need to find some more guys this offseason with edge. And, we talked about it Sunday. That's not usually going to come through the draft, right? That's going to be on Jason Light to try and find some veteran talent that can come in and sort of change the mindset of some of these guys. Because right now, they're not a team. They're pretty easy to play against, I think. And you hear that a lot in like hockey and stuff because it's a very physical game. Your mic's off. I don't know if you know that.
Oh no, it's not. I'm just whispering.
Okay. Well, for our podcast viewers, they're going to be very confused. But
I'll spell it out in a minute.
Yeah, hockey's a very physical game, right? Football is a very physical game. And you hear a lot of people talk about, hockey easy to play against, be tougher to play against. That comes with a physicality thing, but it's also a mindset thing. And I think there's just too many guys. I'm not saying every guy has to have this mentality. Every guy on that Super Bowl team in 2020 did not have this mentality. That's fine. But there's too many guys and too many leaders on this team right now that are not necessarily soft, but their personality is just a little bit different than those guys, right? Vita Vea and Antoine Winfield Jr. Like those guys, yeah, they're great players and they lead in their own ways. And it's not like a Gerald McCoy thing where Gerald, was very like reserved and stuff like that. And wasn't like the fiery guy like Levante David, very reserved. That's sort of what it is. And they kind of need to get back to finding some of those guys that aren't going to put up with some of the crap. And I'm not saying there's a bunch of, crap going on and stuff and guys being distracted and late for meetings. But I do think there is a lack of attention to detail, sometimes a lack of focus that wouldn't be tolerated sometimes, in that 2020 team with Bruce Arians as the head coach and Jason Pierre-Paul and Ryan Jensen and Ndamukong Suh in that locker room. This is simply, and obviously Tom Brady, that helps, right? Having Tom Brady there. But that stuff would not be tolerated right now. So I think they need to get back to that. It's easier said than done, obviously. That's a tough thing to get into a player's mind, basically. But that's one thing I'd say.
You're not going to say they're soft, but I certainly will. SAWFT, soft, my friend. Until they show me otherwise, until they beat down on the Falcons like they should, I don't believe that they will as of right now. And I think that a lot of that edge that you're talking about, Bruce Arians, man, it was a trickle-down effect with Bruce. Like, he was a killer.
It was that Falcons game, right?
Right.
Where they were up like
21-10.
1-10 or something, and he was furious.
Yeah.
We have a $2 super chat from Nicholas Rodriguez. John Gruden on the way. Yeah. Again,
buddy.
You talk about Bowles and stuff. We're not really going to get into job security stuff. There'll be a time and a place. I will say, right? The Bucs, the Bowles era, right? And I think I mentioned this on the post-game show, but they've avoided this type of loss, right? That loss in New Orleans. They've avoided that for the most part in these last couple of seasons. Well, they didn't avoid it last Sunday. And if you have another opportunity against Atlanta, right? You're feeling pretty good again. If you beat Atlanta, you got a 10-day break before you play Carolina. Then if you win that game, you're right back in the driver's seat, basically. So there's an opportunity there. But I will say the seat for Bowles is probably and it's not on fire, but like the seat for Bowles is probably the warmest it's been in a little bit, maybe. I think there was maybe some people in the organization who thought that Liam Cohen should have replaced Todd Bowles, but it wasn't like fire Todd Bowles that, I think it was more like, oh, we don't want to lose Cohen necessarily. This time around, it feels like his seat's just the oven's just getting warmed up just a little bit, but it's not to that point. Now it can get to that point. It does. You lose these next two games, it will get to that point. And I think it'll get pretty loud, but we'll see.
You spoke about the edge that the Bucs are lacking really on both sides of the ball, and you talked about douchebags. I really can't help but recall, some of the infamous douchebags. I love that that's the term now for them. That's going to be what we call them moving forward. I come to think of some of the infamous guys that played in Tampa Bay, and of course some of the names that you mentioned, JPP on that list, and Ndamukong Suh on that list. On the offensive line, I think is where they have really been missing it this season, and like a Ryan Jensen. He was so good at just pushing buttons and getting in just enough trouble to put his hands up and ultimately not be the guy getting the shit end of the stick there. But I think that they have dogs everywhere on this team. And going back to the initial point, like, we're not saying that the guys on the team are just soft and not good enough. Maybe there's a few.
See, I don't think they have enough dogs.
There's a few, but not enough right. You look at the defensive side of the ball. Who's their dogs this year? Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyke Smith. Outside of that, who have you been able to rely on week in and week out?
Yeah, and also like kind of all three of those guys against the Saints were like no shows. Like,
yeah, I mean,
very pedestrian.
There was some troubling film from I don't want to say all three because I thought Vita had a solid day.
I mean, Vita Vea was one of the three that missed the tackle on Shuck there when he ran into the end zone to take the lead. I mean, that's on him.
You're not wrong. He was there. Anthony Nelson was there. There were a couple of guys that were there, and it's
Logan
just
Hall
following a theme, man. But I wanted to talk about the offensive line because we did get some injury news this week along the offensive line, and not the kind that we were hoping for, because as soon as this offensive line reached a point of like, hey, this is as good as it's going to get, we got another swift kick to the crotch here with Ben Bredesen being placed on injured reserve. He will be out the rest of the regular season, so presumably we are now going to have Michael Jordan and Dan Feeney as our guys. Luke Haggard may or may not still be on the menu. Elijah Klein may or may not be an option eventually. But as of right now, it seems like you're going to have in the absence of Bredesen, you're going to have Michael Jordan at left guard, Dan Feeney at right guard. And then Ben Chukwuma got his first action last week as starting left tackle, filling in for Tristan Wirfs. Curious to see if he's like their go-to swing guy in extra sets, or if Charlie Heck still is going to get more snaps than him at this stage of the game. But, you hate to see this for a Bucs offensive line that just cannot stop going through changes.
Yeah, can't catch a break this year. It's just like that New England game, right? Wirfs comes back and then Gedecke's back, and you're like, okay, like you finally have the offensive line and it lasts one drive, right? Yeah. Bredesen gets hurt on the extra point of all things. Yeah, it does suck. And I mean, look, if they make the playoffs, there's a shot that, Ben Bredesen could be back. It doesn't mean his season's automatically over. So we'll see. But yeah, it definitely does suck. And like, Feeney has been okay. Like, he's had his moments where it's been like, not great, but like also like he's been fine, I guess. Like, he hasn't been a complete disaster. Michael Jordan, for the most part, has been okay, but I will say, unlike Feeney, Jordan's his lows have been a little bit more low for me. Like, at times, like, he's been more like, when he's been bad for like a longer period of time. And it shows up a little bit more, but yeah, I mean, it sucks, for an offensive line and especially on the offensive line where continuity and stuff is such an important thing. It's something you need, and the Bucs literally have not had it really once at all this season. And that does suck. Bredesen, it was up and down, but was a solid option, and he's a better option than Dan Feeney and Mike Jordan. So it's definitely a loss, and hopefully the Bucs figure out a way to go at it without their two starting guards who they thought they were going to have this season. I mean, look, injuries are going to happen, right? You know that. You're not going to – it's very rare that you're going to be healthy throughout the entire season. But the Bucs offensive line definitely has been in disarray from literally the jump, and that does suck. Really quick, in the chat. King Cook says, "Why was there no Jason Light press conference today? Would have been a perfect opportunity, but we know he is ducking the smoke." I've never heard of a GM like that hasn't fired their coach,
That's
like
having
have a
press
press conference
conference.
in the middle of a season.
Yeah.
When the team's 7-6. So I don't. There is.
I don't know if
Jason
listen.
Light will speak at the end of the season whether the Bucs make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs. Todd Bowles is fired. Todd Bowles is retained. He'll talk at the end of the season, but that's not.
Yeah,
It's not. You're not ducking any smoke. It's just not something they do. It's
yeah,
not
I
something any
can't.
team does.
I love the energy, man, but I can't say that he's ducking the smoke because you know what? If you're going to the game Thursday night and you're looking for him on the sidelines, at some point he'll probably be there. I
Oh, he'll
don't
be
think in any regard Jason Light is laying low. Now, is he probably less Mr. Twitter fingers? Yeah, because we just lost to the Saints, and he
Sure.
loves chirping at New Orleans during the regular season. So yeah, he's probably not going to tweet for a little while. But with that being said, I think he's going to continue his GM activities just as he normally would. But we don't normally get press conferences from Light this time of year. That was pretty funny though. So I wanted to talk about another potential injury update here, and this one on the other side of the football here. And this could be. It doesn't feel like there's going to be well, I don't know. I think there could. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I think is really the overwhelming feeling here. A lot of uncertainty. Pertaining to the inside linebacker position, Nick Jackson was called up this week. There is an open roster spot, but on top of that, there is a chance that Servassier Dennis may not be able to go for Thursday Night Football. Now, Bucs are doing walkthroughs all week, so it's really, again, tough to get a true gauge of who's available and who isn't. But he did not practice Monday or Tuesday, and I think he's dealing with a hip injury. So that's going to be interesting. Servassier Dennis has by no means been strong, and I think he gave up his biggest touchdown of the season to Bijan Robinson the last time these two teams met. So that very much could be an issue for Nick Jackson, but the undrafted free agent out of Iowa made some splash plays in the preseason. I'm glad that he found a way to stick around, and granted, maybe the circumstances could be a little bit different, but he inevitably found his way onto an NFL field, and if he suits up for the Bucs, he could be the man for the job this week. What are your thoughts here on? I mean, at this point, one half of me is obviously saying, look at the assignment, look at Bijan Robinson in the backfield, look at the way the Bucs defense have been playing against a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, who is going to take all the underneath options. Take all of that out of it. I also am just kind of like, why the hell not? Let's see what he's got, right? Because we know what Servassier Dennis is 14 games into this thing.
I mean, I'd be surprised if Dennis played. I'm not expecting him to play, especially on a short. Maybe if the game was on Sunday, you get basically 3 extra days of rest and recovery and stuff. But I don't think Servassier Dennis is going to play. Yeah, I mean, why not, right? I mean, look, Deion Jones is a veteran guy.
Right.
You sort of know what you have in him. And maybe a guy, if Nick Jackson does end up, playing, maybe he can give you something, right? Now, I mean, he hasn't been on the roster for a reason. He's been on the practice squad and he hasn't,
Well, the
like no other team scooped him up, right? No other
Yeah.
team's like, oh, we got to have this guy,
Well, and the big thing too is I remember coming out of the preseason, they ended up picking John Bullock as that last linebacker, and Bullock plays special teams a decent amount. So I don't know if Jackson had the same skill set in special teams, but I remember like that was one of the talking points.
Yeah. Yeah, well, their special teams unit's so good. So, but no, I mean, look, yeah. Hopefully, Nick Jackson can come in if he does come in and play. Hopefully, it's good. I mean, because remember the two. Well, really, that first Atlanta game where the middle of the field was really exposed was that Thursday night game against Atlanta in Atlanta last year. And Kirk Cousins, that was, KJ Britt really had a tough time. That was really like the first time that season where like the middle of the field was a real issue for the Bucs, and then it ended up being an issue, for a long time after that. But yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins is gonna, he's a veteran quarterback, right? And obviously things have not gone to plan in Atlanta, but he is a veteran quarterback that's gonna know where to go with the football, and if you give him time, he's shown you what he can do against the Todd Bowles defense when you give him time, and the middle of the field is wide open. So, um, Kyle Pitts could have a big day. Drake London still didn't practice today. I don't know if he's going to play. I don't think so. Um, so I mean that's obviously a bonus, but like Bijan Robinson, you got to deal with him, right? And you're talking about potentially having Nick Jackson go up against Bijan Robinson. That's not a favorable matchup at all. That's not a matchup you want to be in. So we'll see, but I don't think Servais Dennis is going to play.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something to monitor. And, again, Deion Jones is going to kind of be your starter alongside Levante David. But I'm curious to see who gets the nod between Bullock and Nick Jackson if they plan on calling him up this week. I want to get into this game here. And I want to...
A lot of things have changed for, especially obviously the vibes in Tampa. Look, the vibes in Tampa are low, right?
I don't think,
but I would argue the vibes in Atlanta might be lower because this team had aspirations to potentially win the NFC South, and now they have just been eliminated from playoff contention. Michael Penix Jr., their quarterback, who they drafted in the top 10, might not be ready for the start of next season after having another ACL injury. They don't have their first round pick, which might be a top 10 pick. Things have gone south for the Falcons very quickly.
So what would it mean if the Bucs lost this game with all that you just framed up? I really want to talk about how we're feeling about this game because like you said at the very start of that, vibes in Tampa are low. And I don't think we have been lower this season than we are right now, all things considered. 6-2 start. They've just been dreadful. They have been 1-4 since then. And, Todd Bowles had a press conference on Monday. And I'm not the only person to say this. But, I mean, he is reminding me of Dirk Cutter in the final 2 months that he was here. Because one of the things that I always will remember was Dirk Cutter on the podium told the media who was asking him, hey, you're an offensive coach. What's going on with the offensive side of the ball? And you know what he told him, Evan? He said, if I knew how to fix it, I would. And that's more or less what Todd Bowles just said to the Bucs media on Monday. His press conference was the same bullshit coach speak cycle. We got to execute better. We got to perform better. It's going to take a lot of work. We need everybody to buy in and all work.
We got to coach it better.
We need to got to coach it better. Got to execute, whatever. But one of the things
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. But one of the things he sprinkled in there that was just a massive red flag is if I knew what the problem was or if I knew how to fix it, I would. And that is fresh off a game against New Orleans where we came away from that game saying, these guys look like they have no more answers. In that Monday press conference.
That's the issue. That's the red flag there.
That Monday press conference to me just cemented that this is a team who is out of answers. So I don't blame fans for getting as high on the JPP signing and his conspiracy theory about it as they were. Because the truth of the matter is, my friend, you and I both know it, like, vibes are low. So what would it mean if in a game that is already spelling disaster for Tampa Bay, I hate to say that, but my faith in this team has not been lower. I truly feel like Kirk Cousins is about to walk into our house on prime time, national television, in front of the entire country while we are wearing the creamsicle uniforms, and he's going to throw for 400 yards. Drake London's going to have a $185 because he's going to find a way to play. And if it's not him, then it's going to be Bijan Robinson just absolutely torching people. It is going to happen. It feels inevitable that just like Jacoby Brissett, just like Tyler Shuck, just like every quarterback they have faced over the last 5 weeks, every option is available to them. And it just looked far too pedestrian, far too easy. And unfortunately for us, Kirk Cousins is a quarterback who has not only been in that situation, but executed in that situation twice a year against Tampa Bay. And I hope to God he's not that same guy, but even if he's not and he's playing on half a leg, I think Kirk Cousins on half a leg could carve up this Bucs defense right now.
So you said like, oh, what would it mean or whatever. Now, I don't think if they were to lose, it wouldn't be as egregious as the Saints one, right? But the Falcons still have a lot of talent, particularly on defense. I like the Falcons defense. It's a much improved unit, right? And we do, make fun of them for, not having a first round pick. Well, they don't have a first round pick because they traded back up to get James Pierce Jr. James Pierce Jr. has been pretty good for them this season. It's a pretty good building block. Jalen Walker on the other side has been a pretty good building block. So it's not as like egregious as like losing to the Saints because like I think the Saints are a bad football team. I think the Falcons are not a bad team. I think they're just a team having a bad year. I think it's just a year where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. It started with Younghoe Koo missing a game time field goal against the Bucs. That game could have gone into overtime. You know, that's a makeable kick too. Probably should have gone into overtime. Go ahead.
We got a really funny comment, and I don't normally like dive into the comments, but on the post game show after the Saints game, when we called the Saints a bad team at 2-10, we had somebody jump in the comment. We had some guy jump in the comments, and he's like, "Actually, I just want to dispute your claim about the Saints being the second worst, because ever since we had Tyler Shuck, he's led us to a 2-3 record."
Yeah, they said if he was the starter at the start of the season, they would probably win the division.
Yeah, buddy. Okay.
Yeah. Got news for you. That's not the case. But anyways, so I don't think it would be as bad of a loss, right? Like unacceptable wise as the Saints game, right? Because this is, a team that even when you beat them, like they swept you last year, and even when you beat them, that was a tight game the entire way in week one. And I know week one is a long time ago, and a lot of things have changed between both teams. But again, just because it wouldn't be as bad of a loss doesn't mean it wouldn't be a bad loss. Like it's still a game where, just like I said on the postgame show, like you are trying to win a division and you have a home game now on prime time against a division rival and a team that is struggling right now. They're eliminated from the playoffs. They're 4-9 or whatever. You need to take care of business there. That's, you can afford, to lose to a Saints team, lay an egg. Okay, what you can't afford to do is to stack those types of losses, right? And when you stack those types of losses after barely beating the Cardinals, who were, again, yeah, they played a lot of one-score games, right? Like they played teams tough. So they're not getting blown out, but they're still losing these games. Your record is what, you are what your record says you are, basically. The Cardinals are not a good team. Bucs barely beat them. The Saints are really not a good team. The Bucs lost. Now the Falcons, they're not a good team right now. And the Bucs just these are the types of games, especially if Bowles, if you want to keep your job, like you can't really afford to lose. Like you really can't. And I know, technically speaking, like when you break it down, the only two games that really matter for the Bucs the rest of the season are the Panthers. Because if the Bucs sweep the Panthers, like if they just beat Carolina twice, they could lose by 50 to both Atlanta and Miami, and it wouldn't matter. Like the Bucs would still win the NFC South. Like I understand that, but still, this is a game where it's another opportunity to just sort of right the ship a little bit, and instead of, you can either continue to sink, you can be the Titanic and be trying to throw deck chairs and the thing just keeps going down, or you can try and steady the ship, stop the bleeding, stop the water from coming in, or else it may end up sinking you, right? And you're going to find yourself at home in January, and might be a lot of coaches on this team without jobs in January. So we'll see. But it's not going to be easy. I'll say that, and I didn't think the Saints game was going to be easy, but I also didn't think they were going to lose. So, that is something. One thing I did want to say, I talked about, bad teams or whatever, and I got a little bit of pushback during the show, on Sunday, but then a little bit of pushback in the comment section as well. I just wanted to clarify something. I called the Bucs an average team. When I say that, I think overall body of work throughout the season. They have highs, they have lows, and their lows and highs are quite similar. To me, that's about average. Right now, yes, they are playing like a bad football team. I just wanted to clarify that, right? Like I think they're average, but that's me speaking on the entire season as a whole. Right now, yeah, sure. They've just, you know, like you mentioned, they were 6-2, right? Even if you throw out the 5-1 start or whatever, they were 6-2, and now they're 7-6. Like that's a bad football team right there. That's a bad sign. So you definitely want to improve there, and you get another opportunity against a struggling team in Atlanta, and hopefully you can.
I want to talk about the quarterback here as we get ready for prime time. Baker Mayfield, week 1, when these two teams last met, went 17 for 32 through the air, 167 and 3 touchdowns, one of them coming on a game-winning drive in the final few minutes. He also had 40 yards on the ground over 5 attempts. So Baker was doing his thing, right? Like, that is Baker at his best this season. He's able to deliver through the air. I mean, the passing percentage isn't exactly what you'd like, but he's shown you he can do better than that. But still, a couple hundred yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, and he picks up some yards on the ground, some critical first downs, right? Like, that is the best of Baker Mayfield this season, and it has absolutely saved the Bucs in games like Houston. They don't win that game without Baker picking up that 4th down scramble. San Francisco, you could argue they don't win that game without Baker's scramble. And I'm sure that there's some other moments this season that we can point to, especially in that early, 6-game stretch there, where Baker Mayfield heroics are what kind of got us over the hump. But man, we got to talk about this because it breaks my heart. What Baker Mayfield, now that we have lost Ben Bredeson, what Baker Mayfield's going to trot out of that tunnel on Thursday night, my friend? Because the last, 7 weeks, he has been, and I'm not even just saying this, because I like Baker Mayfield. I cannot make that clear enough. Baker is my guy, because when he is on, we can agree there is few like him. When he's playing his best ball, he's among the best in the NFL. We were calling him the MVP the first 7 weeks of the season because he has that ability. And then once the lights turn on and everybody seems to be paying attention to him, he's just folded because, again, statistically, through the air, since week 7, he has been the worst quarterback in the NFL. He is ranked 33rd out of 33 possible quarterbacks. He has been worse than Dylan Gabriel. He has been worse than a lot of the guys that have already been benched this year. Since week 7, he is dead last in QB efficiency. He is behind Dylan Gabriel, J.J. McCarthy. I mean, I could read off some more names on this chart, but it's probably just going to bum you out. I mean, it has just been such a far cry from the player we saw early on in the season. And it has evolved from he's missing some throws here and there to he's just not playing well.
Yeah.
And we can talk about the offensive line. We're going to do that ad nauseum. But what Baker are we going to get against the Falcons this week, my friend?
I mean, for this season, I kind of feel like this is what you're going to get. And to be fair, it's not like it's been 60 minutes of torture, right? He's had his moments,
Yeah.
He'll
make a throw. He can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the Arizona game he played fine. He started the Saints game pretty good, and then the rain came, and then just obviously the rain didn't really do much in the second half. But he just couldn't really recover.
I mean, that may have been one of his best starts in weeks when we really consider the opening drive touchdown. But he was 8 for 8, 60 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. What more can you ask?
Yeah, I mean that's what you're looking for, and obviously, the rain's not an excuse, and I mean Baker's not going to make that excuse, right? He didn't make that excuse. He said, they have to play in the same exact conditions. It's not like it's, only raining when the Bucs offense is on the field. But yeah, I mean he hasn't been good enough, right? And just being okay at times, well, that's not going to get you even probably winning a playoff game. Like you can't just have your quarterback in the most important position on a football team. You can't have just okay, and then when he's not okay, he's like below average. Because there's been too many times, and I understand. Look, there's other circumstances as to why this is, right. It's not just like, oh yeah, we don't know. There's one thing. There's a multitude of things, right? I think the play calling hasn't been the best from Josh Grizzard. Execution from Baker hasn't been there, as far as missing some balls and stuff like that. Receivers have dropped a couple of passes.
He's been hurt.
I mean, yeah,
He's been hurt.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, he is hurt. He is still hurt. And it's probably going to be something, unfortunately, that like is going to carry on throughout the rest of the season. Like the AC like sprain or whatever is likely not something that's going to just heal. Because the thing is, he's going to keep playing. Like that's the problem, right? There's not going to be proper time for it to heal. I think this 10-day break after this Thursday game is going to be welcomed. Just like mini bye week right at the end of the season, kind of. Sure, that'll be nice, but like it's not going to magically heal itself, right? So, and we thought he's had other issues this season, not just with the shoulder. There's been other problems as well. So that affected like his scrambling, right? He wasn't scrambling as much, and we were wondering why. So yeah, I wouldn't really say. I don't even know if I'd say I'm concerned, just because it's kind of this is what I expect out of him for the rest of the season. And you just hope kind of that like the guys around him can make enough plays, and he himself can make enough plays and make enough throws to be able to make it count. And you know, obviously the ball to Ibuka, it could have been better, right? But it hits Ibuka right in the hands, drops a bit of an issue for Emeka Ibuka. Now that's the second straight week where Baker's delivered a ball into the end zone, and it has been just straight up dropped by a Bucs receiver, right? Ibuka had that one. Chris Godwin had one the week before. So I mean, that's part of the issue when I say it's not just one guy. It's a multitude of things. So yeah, as far as Baker goes, I don't know. I think you're gonna what you've seen is a lot of what you're gonna see. I think there's gonna be some plays where you're like, all right, yeah, maybe he's coming back a little bit, and then there's gonna be some other plays where you're like, man, he should have had that one, or let that one get away, or that was a bad decision, or something like that. I think you're gonna see those for the rest of the season. I don't think that's gonna change, at least not in 2025.
Yeah, and I think the injuries are 100% a factor. It's hard for. Well, I mean, it's easy for people to say like, "Oh, the injuries don't matter. He's got to be better. He's an NFL quarterback." But it's like, man, we're not out there. I'm not putting on the pads every week. I'm not playing through pain. A good counterpoint that is brought up, and Sal319 says this in the chat. He says, if you're that hurt, then sit out. Well,
no, yeah, I mean,
but
I get it.
Let me ask you, do you feel like Baker Mayfield is personally going to feel like him playing at 65% gives the team a better chance to win than starting Teddy Bridgewater or Connor Bazelak?
I'll tell you who else feels that way. Todd Bowles.
Right.
I think Todd Bowles also feels that way. So yeah. I mean, but then there's one thing. Baker can't face that pressure in the bright lights. 1-8 primetime games. 0-2 in the playoffs with us. He's not 0-2 in the playoffs. He has won a playoff game with the Bucs. But look, this whole like, oh, he can't. I think that's more so just like you're usually when you play primetime games, you play better teams. And sure, Baker hasn't played great in some of those games, but also like I don't think the Bucs as a team are good enough to beat some of these better teams. So I think that's partially the reason as well, as to why they have struggled sometimes on primetime.
Let me follow up with one more question about Baker here, because some of the things that we have talked about, look ahead to the offseason. There's going to be some difficult conversations coming up for Tampa Bay. Everything that we've talked about with Baker and the struggles that we have seen, the injuries again being a part of that, but what we have seen, I think both of us have the feeling that the most realistic outcome, the most likely outcome, is that Baker Mayfield is the quarterback for the Bucs week 1 next season. One way or another.
No, that's 100%. I don't care. It doesn't matter who the head coach is.
Right. Okay. So let me then ask you, and maybe your answer is the same, but this is mostly just to, kind of fan the flames here. We're going to stir the pot on today's show just a little bit. When you are a general manager building a team and you are approaching what could be, I don't want to talk like it is, but it really does feel like this could be an off-season full of change. Let's say they move on from the head coach. In your personal opinion, you've got a free agent quarterback.
He's not a free agent, though. Everybody thinks his contract's up. I don't know why. His contract's not up. He's got another year.
Okay. Do you still, when you consider re-signing Baker Mayfield, is he a guy that you still look at as someone that you can win a Super Bowl with?
Well,
yeah.
My answer for the longest time, obviously, if people have listened to this show for a couple of years, right, since Baker Mayfield's been here, I've routinely said that, like, no, I probably not, right? Like, I don't really think that you can win a Super Bowl with Baker Mayfield. Now, I do think, and I still kind of believe that. However, I have softened on that a little bit. I think with the right pieces around him, you might be able to have a lot more success than I think I was giving him credit for. Because he has proven me wrong. He has been better than I thought he was going to be when they signed him. I thought, and again, I was an advocate for signing him. I thought it was a good move at the time. But he exceeded my expectations. The extension part. So he has 1 year left on his deal. And I don't know. It's kind of like a head coach where, like, if you have a head coach you really like, do you let him go into the season as like a lame duck? Right? Like, do you let him go in with 1 year left on his deal? Like, and this is the final year of his contract? Or, do you give him a 1 or 2 year extension if you really like him? That's kind of the same thing with like really talented quarterbacks. Like, you're not really gonna see, a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes. Like, you're not gonna see, yeah, well, this is the final year of his contract. Yeah, he's scheduled to be a free agent. Like, it's not gonna happen. They're gonna get an extension done before that. So that's the thing, right? If an extension is going to have, I really don't think the Bucs are going to have Baker Mayfield walk into 2026 as a lame duck. If they do, to me, maybe that is a sign that, okay, well, maybe they're not as 100% sold, right? Maybe they would like to see a little bit more. Maybe they're thinking, well, with the injuries they had and stuff like that, and a healthy Baker, maybe it'll be better. So that's why I expect him still, and this is gonna drive people nuts. I think it wouldn't have drove people nuts like 2 months ago, but now it's gonna drive people nuts. That I do think he's still probably gonna get a contract extension. The other reason is that they can create salary cap space by doing a contract extension this offseason. So I think that's another thing because, again, you can lower his cap at this year, in 2026 to move it around to future years. I think that's another reason why they might do the contract extension. So, and I think they still like him. Like, I think they like his personality. They like the way he plays. They like the production. And I just don't think they've soured on him. So he's 100% the starter in 2026 unless something crazy happens. But then I think probably beyond that as well, I think it's pretty likely.
All right, let me ask you a loaded question then. When we look at this season and we look at the regression, there's no other word for it because of the guy that we got over the first 6 weeks. The Baker Mayfield implosion in 2025, is that a tendency of Baker Mayfield or is that a result of this Buccaneers football team? Is he as a quarterback just not consistent? Because, again, people are going to watch him and they're going to say, he does this everywhere he goes. This is just the guy he is. We knew this was going to happen. We've been waiting on this all to happen. And I don't feel that way. But, again, when the discussion comes up and you look at what he's delivered since week 7, he's been the worst throwing quarterback in the NFL. That's just what the numbers are going to tell you. Now, is that a product of the situation he's in? Not having an offensive line, being injured, playing through injury, not having his top wide receivers, having a handcuffed offensive coordinator. He came out, Josh Grizzard came on the Rondé show at the very beginning of the season in training camp And he said on record that the one guy that he needs most to make his offense work is Jalen McMillan. And they lost him in week 2 of the preseason. So like he made that clear from the jump that Jalen McMillan was going to be a factor in this offense. He said something about it today. He said that Jalen McMillan had the best opportunity of any wide receiver to beat man coverage just because of his skill set and the way that he runs. He's been waiting on that guy, and we try to be overly critical of Josh Grizzard, who, again, I'm going to use this line again, got tossed a shit sandwich at the beginning of the year. So going back to the Baker thing, there's so many other conversations that are being had. But when you look at this, is this just Baker as a player and a quarterback? Or is this a product of where the Bucs are as a team right now? Because there's way more problems than just Baker, but he has been a glaring issue for a little over a month.
I think it's a little bit of both. And like I feel like that's probably a cop-out answer. But like, yeah, just like you said, I think there's bigger issues than Baker Mayfield. Like there's bigger issues that like this team isn't like, oh my God, yeah, they're doing everything else right, but their quarterback just cannot do anything.
Right.
There's more issues on this team than that right now. So and I'm more concerned with the defensive side of the ball than the offensive side. Especially because again, who the head coach is. But yeah, he has to be better. Like he's been a problem. Is he the sole reason they're losing these games? No. But is he helping? No. He's not the sole reason they're losing, but like, dude, like, will your team to win a little bit, right? Help your team out against New England, right? Make an extra throw or two against Buffalo. Make an extra throw or two against, the Saints. Like, do those things and just be better. And maybe those games go differently, right? If you're let's say 2 of those 3 go differently. You're feeling a lot different about this Bucs team right now. They end up beating, let's say they beat Buffalo and they end up beating New Orleans right now. Well, despite the Rams blowout game, I still think you're feeling pretty decent, right? You got 9 wins on the season and you're sitting there and you're 9-4, you're feeling good. But it didn't happen, right? And there's been too many times this season and lately, I should say, that he has come up short when they needed him to step up. And again, it's not all on him, and there are bigger issues. I would say that most of the losses I can't really pin on him, but he's a culprit. Like he's one of the reasons. He's just not the main reason, and that is annoying. That is annoying. So I have seen some stuff in the chat about people, saying, "Oh, don't give Baker Mayfield $50 million, on a new contract extension, stuff like that." Here's the thing. And here's the thing, a lot of people, and they did this every time with Donovan Smith. because offensive tackles get a lot of money. Quarterbacks get a lot of money. I just looked it up. If Baker Mayfield signed a contract extension with the Buccaneers and his average annual value was $50 million, it wouldn't even be a top 10 quarterback salary.
Ooh.
It'd be like 12 or 13.
That's disgusting.
The other names, the names that are in the top 10, Dak Prescott is number 1, $60 million. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jordan Love. And I know obviously Dak Prescott is better than Baker Mayfield. Joe Burrow better. Josh Allen better. Some people would say, Jordan Love better. Some would say probably not, but I think he probably is. Again, I get that. Trevor Lawrence has $55 million. Tua has 53. Jared Goff, 53. Brock Purdy, 53. Justin Herbert, 52. Lamar Jackson, 52. Jalen Hurts. And this is outside the top 10 now. 51. Kyler Murray has 46.
Oh.
Deshaun Watson has 46.
Oh.
Kirk Cousins has 45.
Oh.
Like, they all are making... Kirk Cousins is making $12 million more than Baker Mayfield is.
That's just criminal, man.
It's just... The thing is, when he signs an extension, don't be like... I know the sticker shock, right, might be there on like the, oh my God, like they're giving him how much money? But that's why I said it's like the Donovan Smith thing, right? Because everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're paying Donovan Smith how much money?" This is the market. Like that's the quarterback market. And I don't it's not that crazy. The cap's just gonna keep rising. Like the cap is just gonna keep going up and up and up, and these salaries are gonna keep rising as well. So I'm sure the Buccaneers would prefer not to pay him $50 million. Sure, it's much easier on their cap. I mean, but he's gonna get some type of raise, and it might be around that 50 million range. But like again, even if it's 50 million, it's like the 12th or 13th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Like
Two or
it's not that crazy.
2 or 3 years.
What would I think it would
Yeah.
be? Probably three, but like I think the contract would be structured to where they could probably get out of it after like two.
Do they still have? I don't remember if like the collective bargaining agreement got upgraded or they changed some rules at the owners' meeting or whatever. Can they still do that void year nonsense?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but like I think they can still do something with it. I'm
They
not
haven't.
sure exactly if it's the exact same thing. Like they
Yeah.
might have to change some things, but still think yeah, they can still do stuff like that.
Ever since they kind of shedded the Brady debt, they haven't really had many means to do that. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I was mostly just curious. All right, let's wrap this thing up and do some score predictions here. I have said everything that I needed to say about how I think the Bucs are going to play against the Falcons. With that being said, I'm not going to pick them to lose, of course. Give me the Bucs in this one. Primetime division game, you got to have it. It feels like must-win territory. I know we look at those two Panthers games as pretty much the be-all, end-all, but I think this is a positive step towards potentially not having to worry about that as much. Crazy thought, I know, but give me the Buccaneers. They put up 20 measly points, and Atlanta's right there. So 20-16 is my final score prediction.
Okay. Really quick, King Cook says Josh Allen has no star players on his offense except for Cook, and he carries them every week. You're trying to tell me Baker needs to get paid more than Josh Allen? Let's be real. Well, one, I don't think so. I mean, Josh Allen's making 55 million, so that's I believe fourth high or third highest in the NFL. I do not think that Baker Mayfield is going to be getting more than Josh Allen. But also, let's not compare Baker Mayfield to who I think is probably the best quarterback in the NFL. Like, I think Josh Allen is like great, like great. So, like potentially all time great. And like, I don't really want to compare Baker Mayfield to that because I don't think that's very fair. But yeah. Anyways, back to the score predictions. Uh, so a lot of these signs, right, are pointing towards the Bucks loss, right? It's Kirk Cousins. It's Thursday night, prime time. They're wearing the creamsicles, which they have not won in the creamsicles since the first ever game in the creamsicles when they brought them back, right, in 2009 that was against the Packers. But this is a Bucks team that's gonna. I hope, because if you're not, boy, that is a really red flag. This should be a Bucks team that is playing with some pride, right? Because after that last performance, you should be eager to get like every player on that roster right now should be wanting to play right now. Like they should be wanting to get out there right now and get that taste out of their mouths. If they're not, that's a bad sign. Having said all that, and again, the history shows the Bucks probably not. I I can't trust this Bucks team. Like I can't do it. So like until they prove it to me, like go out and win a ball game, right? Like go out and win a football game. And until you prove it to me, until I prove otherwise, I'm gonna assume that you don't got it. Like the vibes are low. I don't foresee them getting much higher. I don't think signing a 36, 37-year-old Jason Pierre-Paul who hasn't played in 2 years is going to do anything for the
What do you
locker room
mean,
in
dude?
2 days.
What do you mean?
So I do think the Buccaneers will be losing this game. I don't, and again, the other thing is like, Kirk Cousins, whatever. I don't see how they're going to stop Bijan Robinson. I have a hard time seeing that. So like the 16 points that you only have them allowed, I don't know where that's coming from. I
It's
mean,
gonna
and
rain
I don't,
again.
I don't have the,
It's gonna
yeah,
rain.
yeah, maybe, yeah, good.
No, it's
I
expected to be a beautiful night. I think not a cloud in the
man,
sky.
okay, well, um, And like I'm not expecting the Falcons to score like 40 points. Um, but I do think they're going to end up winning this football game. Give me the Falcons 24, the Bucs 20. The Bucs score 20 for the second straight week in a row. They scored 20 multiple times, I think, this season, or at least close to 20 a lot of the time. So again, I'm gonna believe it when I see it, right? If you go out and you dominate Atlanta, okay, I might say, all right, that's a great response, right? That's a great response by this team, and then you're on to a massive game against Carolina. But until you do that, I'm not gonna give you really any benefit of the doubt because losing to a 2-win football, or at the time 2-win football team at home when you're trying to win a division, that's not, you don't really deserve the benefit of the doubt. I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's, I kind of giggle when I hear Todd Bowles get up on the podium and say it's a playoff mentality around here. And it's hilarious hearing that from a team that hasn't won a game since like Halloween. Like I just it
But like honestly, like the last time you felt good about a Bucks win was that San Francisco game. Because like even the New Orleans game, you're like, I don't know, like the defense really did the job, but the offense scored 16 points against New Orleans in New Orleans. They had the Anthony Nelson pick six, so the defense accounted for some of it. And then like the Arizona game, you were like, yeah, they won, but like when's the last time that you felt truly good, like you felt like after the game, like wow, the Bucks played well today, right? Like the Bucks played well. Was the 49ers game that was October 12th. October 12th. It's December 9th. So almost 2 months since the last time I think I can remember looking at a game and being like, yeah, the Bucks played pretty darn well. And it's unfortunate. But hey, it is what it is. And again, they got to prove it to me. They got to prove it that they can go out and handle business because I thought they were going to be able to handle business on Sunday, and they proved me wrong. So you know what? I'm gonna go the reverse. Like prove me wrong yet again, but this time in a positive direction. So we'll see. But hey, another thing Thursday, Raise the Flags releases on Amazon Prime Video as well, a 10-part series. I don't know any other details. I don't know how long the episodes are. I did see something kind of cool. There was like a little like behind the scenes clip or whatever, and I thought this was neat. And it's a small detail, but I thought this was neat. They are interviewing Jameis Winston.
yeah. You
Which
saw
I thought was a neat little thing. Like I'm glad they didn't just like gloss over a lot of it because like he is a big part of the team's history. Like he was their number one overall pick, the quarterback. Has spent 5 years with the team, and then that led to them signing Tom Brady. So
well, you saw
yeah, like he holds a bunch of records and stuff. Like yeah, it's cool.
You saw the clip of what he said, right? The one little sound bite where he's like, and you got to appreciate, you got to be grateful for the little things in life because without me, this organization would have never got Tom Brady. So like he's got the sound bite and everything.
I love Jameis, man. I love him. I love him so much.
The character arc for Jameis Winston is entertaining to say the least. And looking forward to that series. Listen, if I got to tune out of the game by halftime, then I'll probably just go ahead and turn on Raise the Flags, and we'll do an hour post game show of the first few episodes of that series.
Yeah. That's what that we'll just like watch that live.
Yeah.
We'll ignore the game.
That'll be a good time. With that being said, that's going to do it for today's game preview episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I want to thank everybody coming in here on short notice and hanging out with us. Buccaneer Bryce, Frank G, Kiffick, I think is how I say that. Sal 319, Richard T from the West Coast. And Richard T broke my little heart, man. He said, I know they can win, but the Bucs are not good anymore this year. No, Richard T, we just signed JPP, man.
He'll turn.
He said, I don't trust Bowles at this point. I don't see them winning.
To me, if they're gonna win, it's gonna be in spite of the head coach. That's just what I think.
I don't disagree with you, my friend. It's going to be interesting. Thursday night football, the Bucs going to be on prime time, and win, lose, or draw, we will be here live, youtube.com/Cannon Fire Podcast. If you're going to the game or if you plan to be at the stadium before kickoff, right around 2 hours before kickoff, give or take. I can't say an exact window, but come by the WFLA tent. We're going to be hanging out with the Rondé Barber Show, and you may or may not see your favorite Pro Football Hall of Famer walking around, taking pictures with people, and doing whatever he does. It's kind of up to him. He can do whatever he wants, or we're not going to give him too many guidelines. He's a Hall of Famer. So come hang out with us ahead of the game. We'll be out there at Bucs Beach. That'll be a good time. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. You can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_Daily. You can find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. You got anything this week?
So we'll see if I can get it in time. Might be tough because of the short week, but I was planning to just write, and I think I might have teased this on Sunday, but I was planning to write just my thoughts on a lot of the things for the Bucs, like not necessarily like the last game, but like just like deeper stuff, right? Like about like Bowles and about Jason Light and stuff like that. So again, don't know if it's gonna be before the game because of the short week. We'll see. But if not, it is coming here soon, whether they win or lose. Because like I said, a win doesn't like erase like the last month and a half, right? Like, and we'll talk about that. It's not going to be like, oh, everything's fine now. So there will still be issues, but yeah, be on the lookout for that at some point.
Last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Retticus, RHETTAKUS, and please check out the Rondé Barber Show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all your podcast platforms. We do shows every single Wednesday, so we will have one coming out tomorrow. Excited to hear his thoughts, and we've got a mean tweet segment planned for tomorrow's show, so
Nice.
that's gonna be a lot of fun. It's been a wasteland on the internet this week, and we hope to reel everybody back in. But that's going to do it for today's game preview. I am your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for watching, and go Bucs.